My name is Tiffany Spraggins-Payne. You are listening to Zigzag, a weekly podcast discussing women in science, technology, transportation, engineering, entrepreneurship, mathematics, and related industries. On Zigzag, we discuss inclusion and diversity news, current trends, and have special guests speak about their experiences, including their competitive edge in the marketplace. Today, my guest is Yasmine Mustafa. She is a social entrepreneur who is fueled by passion to leverage technology for good. She is the co-founder and CEO of the award-winning Roar for Good, a certified B Corp. Yasmine embodies the Roar for Good mission to make the world a safer place using smart safety, wearable technology, and community investments in empathy education. Welcome, Yasmine.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we're really excited to have you here today. You have such a rich story that I'm really excited about all of our listeners getting to learn more about you today. So before we jump into the interview with both feet, I want you to talk about your definition of grit.
For me, when I think about someone with grit, I think about someone persevering and overcoming adversity, no matter what happens in their path. So kind of dusting themselves off and getting up again and pursuing their goal.
Absolutely. So now jumping into the interview, I would love for you to talk about your journey. You came to the United States as a refugee. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of people say it's an interesting story. When I was 8 years old, I was living in Kuwait with my family. And that summer in 1990, my parents took a trip to Philadelphia. My mom ended up having my little baby brother here in Philly. And 7 weeks after they came back to Kuwait, Saddam invaded the country for its oil. And it was a few weeks after that, when we were all sitting in a bomb shelter, when two men burst into the door asking for my little brother. And It turned out they had been deployed by the U.S. Embassy to go and extract all American citizens out of the country for their safety. And they told us we had 1 hour to pack 2 bags among the 8 of us. And then they put us on a plane and brought us to Philadelphia. And just like that, everything changed all of a sudden. We had really no time to prepare, and I thought it was temporary.
Yes.
Plus, I was excited to be on a plane for the first time. So it didn't really hit me when we came here, but we had to learn the language. It was a different culture. If you've ever moved, it's really tough to kind of navigate that.
Yes.
Not knowing the language and the culture amplifies that. So it was quite a start.
Wow. That sounds somewhat challenging. How did that influence you?
I would say in a few ways. One is I am a believer in the birth lottery. So the birth lottery to me is the randomness of our starting point and how we have no influence over our starting point. The country in which we're born into, our parents' socioeconomic class, our race, our gender, if we're able-bodied or not. And I believe that I cheated the birth lottery. I was raised in my mom was raised in a very different culture than I was.
Yes.
And her potential was very different from what I have today. And I think about that a lot. I like to play this game of what if. Like, what if we had not left Kuwait? What if my parents had stayed in Palestine before they moved to Kuwait? What if my brother had not been born in the States? If Saddam hadn't invaded Kuwait, what would my life have been like? And it would have been very, very, very different. My mom's purpose when growing up, she was told that it's to raise a family and make her husband happy, and to have as many sons as possible. So I believe in the birth lottery. And for me, it kind of helped me think about if I could design the world, how would I want to design it so that it's more just and balanced? And that's why I've decided to pursue endeavors that are focused on helping women and immigrants.
Just had to take a pause and just take that all in. Because for someone like myself, who is a design strategist, that we understand working in that world, the whole question of what if is like core to everything that you do, right? I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about how your education has informed your current work with Roar for Good.
Sure. Yeah. So when I first came here, I didn't know any English. And my first year, I had transferred in the middle of 4th grade. I was basically in the back just coloring because there weren't any English as a second language classes available.
Wow.
And I ended up being able to transfer to a school that had ESL classes. I found refuge in education. Like, I really loved learning.
Yes.
We had a challenging home environment. My dad was stripped of his degree when we came here, couldn't get a mechanical engineering job, really identified his identity with his profession.
Wow.
And became resentful and abusive as a result. I knew being in school, nothing could happen to me.
Yes.
And I just loved to learn, and it was a great escape. When I was 15 applying for college, I learned I was undocumented. So even though we had been brought in as refugees, something broke down and we were considered illegal. When you are undocumented, you can't get a driver's license, you can't apply to college, you can't get loans. There's a lot of things that you can't do that, we all kind of take for granted. And
Yes.
when I graduated from high school, I graduated with straight A's. I did really well. I would get the dean's list letter. I would make the dean's list every semester, but I was challenged in going to college because of my undocumented status. And I got really lucky in terms of my mom championing for me. She ended up going down to the local community college to see the president without an appointment.
Wow.
Waiting for 2 hours to be let back in, sitting across from her, sharing our whole life story to this woman she didn't know, and doing it for the first time outside of my family because we had kept it confidential. We thought that if we told someone about what our status was, someone would get, if they got upset with us, they would go to ICE and report us. And
Yes.
we just didn't open up to many people about our current position. So she laid it all out there and took a risk. And at first, the president said, my hands are tied. I can't do anything for you. And my mom stared at her and said, well, then call the police, because if you don't let my daughter enroll, I'm not leaving. There has to be something you can do. And my mom's jokes that they had a staring match for 10 minutes, although it probably felt like a minute. And then she refused to blink first.
That's great.
But then the president said, okay, she could take 6 credits a semester. And I just seized the opportunity. I took 6 credits a semester for every semester, including summer, for 4 years. And then because I had my associate's degree, I was able to transfer to Temple. And I always saw education as a great equalizer.
Yes.
So I couldn't help where I came from, but I knew having that degree, having that education could help me go to develop new paths in my life. And I really wanted that. So I put myself through school, working 2-3 jobs under the table. It took me 7.5 years to graduate, but I got my degree and I graduated summa cum laude despite all of that. And it's one of my most proud moments.
I can only imagine it's some interesting parallels there in terms of having a mother who advocated for you, right, and watching her do this in front of your very eyes. I mean, that is grit at its finest.
I wasn't there. I wish I would have been there. I
you
feel like
weren't
I was
there.
Oh, with the way that she tells the story. But no, but she really did. She's made such a huge jump. Once when I was 18, after school, my dad ended up one day just packing 2 bags and hopping on a one-way flight to Jordan. And the next day we found that he'd actually taken all the family savings with him.
Wow.
And she really stepped up. She transformed. She became a different person because she was very subdued around him. He was very controlling, very possessive. And after he left, it was just a complete shift for all of us. And it was bittersweet in a sense. Yeah, on the one hand, we were broke, but on the other hand, we were kind of free at the same time, even though we were undocumented.
Yes.
So it's kind of a weird contrast.
Just sitting with the fact of knowing that you were undocumented and had to go through all of these hoops to obtain your education, having a mother who basically, with a staring match, would take no for an answer. What kind of character do you think you've built coming through that process?
Well, I feel like it would be cheesy to say grit, so I'll use resilient.
Okay.
Someone called me resilient in an article, and I didn't know really what it meant, and I didn't self-identify as resilient, so I went and did my Google search to look it up, and when I read about it, I read that resilient people have 2 traits in common. One is that they're eternal optimists. They always see the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how bad things get. Yes. And 2, they believe they control the environment around them, not the other way around. So they're captains of their own ship. They take action to get things done. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's me. And I also read that you cannot become resilient without struggle. They go hand in hand. And yeah, there were a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, but I would not be the person that I am if it wasn't for them. I know I'm a hard worker because of the years I spent undocumented, working on the table. I know that I can pick myself back up if things don't go well because I've done it many times.
That takes me to my next question, going off script a little bit here. When you are going through moments of adversity, right? What are some of the creative things that you do to pick yourself back up?
Yeah, really good question. I would say a couple things. One is I kind of sit in it for a bit. So it's not natural, I know, but I feel like it's usually during painful moments and heartbreak where I really learn more about myself,
Yes.
of my character, of what I want and what I don't want.
Yes.
So I sit in it, which is contrary to what I feel like we're told to do. We're told to go have a drink, forget about it, kind of numb the pain. But I feel like there is an advantage to kind of taking a moment and letting it sit and using that experience to propel you forward and learn from it. And two, I focus on the things I can control. I know I can control my mindset. I can control, even when I was undocumented and I was going through that period of watching my friends do things that I couldn't do, going out to the bar, ordering a glass of water, because a $10 drink would cost me 2 hours in terms of my income, how long it would take me to make that $10.
Wow.
And I'd look at them and be like, I wish I could do what they're doing. But then thinking to myself, 5 more years, Yasmine. 5 more years, 4 more years, 3 more years. You're almost there. Just get through this. Get through this. You got this. And no one else had 3 jobs going to school. And whenever I'd get up the next morning, I'd be tired. I think to myself, okay, 1 more year though, and you got your degree, so you got to push through. You got to push through. And then that ended up counting down and getting me through all those hard times. Yeah, I'd love to hear about what you do during those times as well.
Yeah, what's so interesting is that I held down 3 jobs in undergrad as well, and I felt like in those times, I had an early morning job, I had a graveyard job, and I had a weekend job. Wow. And in between, I had class and I had responsibilities of helping pay the bills at home, and I had a mother that was sick, and I had many siblings who needed a second mom. And so for me, I deferred to improv during those moments, because in those 3 different jobs in my studies and then at home, I had to have 4 different personalities to kind of acquiesce to those situations. And so now I'm really grateful having had those experiences, learning that I too am resilient, because it showed me how to deal with ambiguity. A lot of times, and for those who really, really know me, know that I try to control the situation because there were so many moments where I was not in control. And so now knowing that I have a seat at the table, having a degree, being the first in my family to obtain an advanced degree, that I have a huge responsibility to pay that forward. So I think I'm always thinking about the recipients of those who kind of wrestled along this journey with me, and how I owe it to them to be the best example that I possibly can be, and that my life is not my own. And so I think that's what helps me to kind of deal with those moments, and of course sitting in it, because I think being introspective and having reflection also helps you to kind of like ebb and flow and zigzag to that next thing.
Yeah, very impressive. That's amazing.
So Yasmine, tell us a little bit about your organization, War for Good.
Sure. So right after I became a U.S. citizen, believe it or not, it was just 6 years ago when I turned 30.
Wow.
The first thing I did is I got my passport.
Okay.
And then I decided to go to South America for 6 months.
Awesome.
And it was really, for me, getting my citizenship was the first time I really felt free. It's the first time I felt unshackled by my circumstances.
Yes.
It's the first time I felt like I could do what I wanted to do, not what I had to do.
Yes.
So I decided to live it up. I had been working since I was 9 years old. My parents had a 7-Eleven store when we first came here, and I decided it was me time. So
awesome.
I went by myself. Well, first, I think you're gonna like this. I invited my friends over, had them take whatever they wanted from my apartment, packed the remainder of my belongings into 4 boxes, and then put a backpack on and flew to South America. So I started in...
Wait, let's pause for a minute. So you invited friends over to take what they wanted before you packed for yourself to go on this trip.
I didn't know what I was going to do next.
Wow.
But I knew I didn't want anything else to hold me back, including my possessions. And I feel... like most people, I feel like at some point your things start owning you versus the other way around. And I just wanted to be free. I was just ready to fly. I didn't want to worry about anything. And I felt like anything that I have, I could just go get it again. I've been at the bottom. I can work my way up again if I have to. So yeah, I just had them take whatever they wanted and gave away my bed, everything big like that, and flew down to Ecuador. I did full Spanish immersion for the first 3 weeks and a half. So I went to Spanish school for 6 hours a day, stayed with a Spanish family, flew over to Colombia, Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Peru, spent about a month in each country. It changed my life. I learned things about myself. It was amazing, incredible trip. At the same time, it opened my eyes to what women face every day, because no matter where I went, if I was staying at a hostel or a couch surfing or an Airbnb, I would meet people who would share stories of times they had been attacked or harassed or abused. And then a week after I came back to Philadelphia, this was in late 2013, my neighbor went out to her car when she was suddenly grabbed from behind and dragged into an alley. And the headline of the paper the next day was, "Women in Center City severely beaten and brutally assaulted." And when I saw that news story, it was just like a light bulb moment. I thought about all those stories and what happened to her and what women use to protect themselves today, which is usually pepper spray. Yes. And how you have to usually fumble in your pocket or your purse to have it right there when you need it most. And I thought, wearable technology is really hot right now. Why not combine wearables with safety and self-defense? And the first idea I had was called the Macelet, Mace in a Bracelet.
Awesome.
And love the name, but it actually ended up being a terrible idea, because what I learned over doing market research is that most women don't like existing self-defense tools because they're afraid that they'll be overpowered and it used as a weapon against them.
Yes.
And I also learned that today's self-defense tools were made by men initially to protect themselves against animals. And then the other men started using it. And then when the market for women came about, instead of taking the time to talk to them about what they want and need, the shrink it and pink it phenomenon happened. So they made it smaller and pink and sold it to women. And many women just don't like the idea of being close to someone and having to use a pepper spray or a taser or whatever it is. So anyway, using all of that, we went back to the drawing board and we learned that women wanted something discreet, something that can help deter an attack, call for help, and cannot be used against them. And that's how we came up with Athena. Athena is the Greek goddess of wisdom, power, and justice.
Yes.
Just really love that name. That's how we want everyone to embody those characteristics. And you clip it on any which way that you want, and you use it in distressing situations. So there's two modes. There's silent mode and alarm mode.
Yes.
Silent mode, you press the button and it immediately alerts your family and friends with a text message that gets sent out. They get a link they can open and they can see where you are on a map and follow you as you're going for a run or whatever it is that you're doing, and then call you and check up on you or come and help you in distressing situations. And then alarm mode, exactly the same thing, except it also sounds a 95 decibel alert as well. We worked with police officers and self-defense instructors, and we took all the things that we learned from them into developing Athena for what it is today.
Wow. So many things are going through my head as I listen to you talk about Athena, because it involved the process of smart design. Really figuring out like what happens when women are in moments of distress, like how can they best access this tool, essentially this wearable tool, and how to employ the tool as they're going through a moment and trying to ward off, someone from assaulting them. But then also it started making me think about like prototyping. How many times did you have to go through rapid prototyping and research and development before you landed at the current product?
All in all, from the beginning to end, it was 18 months. And in terms of iterations, it's a good question. I don't know, but I'm going to guess at least 40. Because what we initially thought and what we ended up coming out with was completely different. It was night and day.
Okay.
Like at the very beginning, we thought, let's make it a bracelet. All the wearables are bracelets. We'll model that. We'll make it a bracelet. And when we did self-defense classes and we had women wear our prototypes and we had these self-defense instructors perform common attacks, we actually learned it's the worst place for a safety wearable.
Wow.
And that's because if you're grabbed by either arm, which is very common when you're being attacked, then now you only have the opposite hand to get to it. And if you're grabbed by your right and you're wearing on your left, like how are you going to activate it?
Yes.
So it immediately limited your mobility.
Because it's not your dominant hand.
Because now you have it on the opposite hand, the opposite wrist, and now it's only your opposite hand that can activate it. So if you're grabbed by that hand, well, how are you going to get to it? We completely changed the form factor from a bracelet to like a clip. And the whole idea was that, you clip it on any which way, but both hands are free now. So that's one example. And we were lucky in that 3D printing was just taken off around this time. So we were able to prototype quickly and cost effectively.
Yes.
So anytime we change the design, we just go to the 3D printer, make some new prototypes and go and do another test And then over 18 months, we came up with a design. And like you said, very intentional. The magnetic clip so that it stays secure. There are bumps on the face of the design so it guides your finger to the button.
Wow.
The button is recessed to prevent accidental triggering. It took a lot of time, a lot of hard work, and a lot of testing. I think we tested overall over 1,000 devices before we actually did our first manufacturing run.
Wow. Like how much feedback that you received before you found out this is it. This is the final product.
Another really good question. One of the things that we did that I'm really proud that we did is we would go to sororities, for example.
Okay.
And we'd say, hey, we'll buy you pizza if you let us just have half an hour of your time. And they usually meet together once a month for a few hours, and we'd buy them pizza and we'd get up and we'd put together the designs that we had and we'd explain what we were doing. And we always just asked one question. And the question was always the same. And it was, why would you not use this? Or why would you not wear this?
Okay.
And then we took all that feedback and then we'd go and iterate again and come back. And then when we heard nothing, we were like, okay, we got this. So we focused on disconfirming evidence because to us what we found was that it was really easy for people when you're face-to-face with them to tell you what you wanted to hear.
Yes.
But it was very difficult to get them to give very honest, candid feedback. Allowing them the opportunity to say what they didn't like and having that be the focus helped us make the product a lot better.
I love that because at the core of that, that's design thinking, which is really awesome. And it's really like the wave of the future as you think about it.
One of the things that we recognized early on is that developing Athena or developing yet another safety solution is really just kind of a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid on the problem.
Yes.
And that when we talk to researchers and sexual assault counselors and psychologists, at the underlying core of violence against women is gender discrimination and inequality. And that if you focus on teaching empathy, at a young age, when kids are most impressionable, there's a direct correlation between reducing harassment and attacks and abuse against women. So we decided to become a certified B Corp, and we decided to implement what we call the roarback program, where for every one Athena that's sold, we turn around and reinvest the proceeds in nonprofits that are going out and doing this work in teaching about consent and healthy relationships. So really, really proud of that. And it's a critical, integral piece of Roar for Good and what we're doing. So, for example, One Love Foundation is really amazing. They teach about the gray areas of dating abuse.
Yes.
So kind of, when your partner becomes controlling and possessive and they start cutting you off from friends, these are things that are not necessarily talked about before physical abuse happens.
Yes.
And they're raising awareness of that to get young kids to understand the warning signs before it gets more serious.
Yes.
We also partner up with Women Against Abuse.
Yes.
And part of their work is going into schools and doing similar education. So we are always looking for nonprofit partners to work with are doing this kind of work.
Well, so for those of you who are tuning in and you're tied to or work with a nonprofit organization, definitely check out Roar for Good because they're looking to spread the wealth. And so, Yasmine, what's the minimum age that a young lady can participate in your programs?
In the empathy work?
In the empathy work, yes.
Ooh, that's a good question. So our nonprofit partners, I'm trying to think. Some of them do programming with schools as young as second grade, and some of them are in college. So I would defer to the nonprofit more on the program that they do, and it's all tailored based on age and based on the schools that they work with. For ourselves, for Athena, what we've noticed is that it's usually high school and college students and women in urban cities that wear Athena.
That's great. But I would love for you to talk about some of the exciting projects that you're working on currently.
Yeah, sure. So one of the newest things that we're doing is we are focusing on working more with companies that want to keep their employees safe. So companies that maybe have reporters or photographers or employees that travel for work and employees that might go into unsafe areas and feel insecure about their safety. Because of all the gun violence that's been happening, because of the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement, we've had a lot more interest from companies in working with us to see, one, what we can do to outfit their employees with Athenas as they're traveling, and then two, to implement programs within their employees, like sexual harassment programs, for example. We're working with a school. We just put a proposal to the school to not just outfit Athenas to their students, but also to go in and do training on how to stay safe on campus and sexual assault prevention. So we're always all about not just providing the technology to help them stay safe, but also the education so that they don't need a technology in the first place.
Yes. Wow. In listening to you, I'm just curious with working with the nonprofits and providing a lot of this educational development, I should say, what are some, or what is an example of a story that you were surprised to hear working with a nonprofit, particularly as they interface with your wearable?
Every event that I go to and I speak, I always have one person come up to me after, and it's usually a survivor.
Wow.
And it's usually a survivor. Like the last event I did, Athenas were given out to everyone in the audience.
Yes.
And she came up to me after, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, I was attacked 7 years ago while jogging, and I've never been jogging since. I'm going to go on my first jog this weekend with Athena.
Wow.
Yeah, and those moments are very touching and unforgettable.
Do you ever hold on to these stories and just kind of think like, wow, I'm so grateful I created this amazing product that's changing people's lives?
My co-founder does something really cool that I borrowed from him. He has a gratitude folder in his email. So anytime I get emails for Athena, for all the speaking things that I do, I file them in the gratitude folder. And then when I'm having a bad day or things are not going well,
yes,
I go read those emails to remind me about why we're doing what we're doing. Because sometimes it's tough, especially some of the stories that we hear are really devastating.
Wow.
So it's a good reminder of how to keep going despite them.
So in embracing empathy and not having to, but when you have the opportunity to talk with a survivor after your training about Athena and their experience, how are you able to, through empathy, navigate those stories, but not necessarily let them weigh you down?
That is such a good question and something I'm still trying to figure out. I'm someone that takes it all in.
Yes.
And it's really tough to be able to separate myself from what I'm hearing because especially when I'm talking to someone who is teary-eyed, someone who is in pain, I feel like I absorb those same emotions as well. For me, the first thing I do is I try not to speak. I try to just listen. In those type of situations, it's important to have the person know that their voice is being heard.
Yes.
Especially when they are being so brave to talk about something that is causing them so much pain.
Wow. So Yasmine, you're doing incredible work with War for Good. You're the co-founder, you're the CEO. And so talk to us about how you pull together high-performing teams.
Well, I'm very lucky in the sense that I don't know much. I don't have many skills, but I feel like I am really good at getting people much smarter than I together to make something happen. I would say one of the things that I learned early on from my first startup is to sell people on the vision versus what you're actually doing. So for me, being able to sell them on the vision of making the world a safer place, is a big, bold vision, but something that gets people excited, and especially people that are, again, much smarter than I. So I would say that has been one of the best ways that I've been able to recruit really great people, showing them the impact that we want to have and how they can be a big part of making that happen.
Yes. So I love that at the heart of everything that you guys are doing, human-centered design is the focus. Like what does the end user need? And what are the steps to getting Athena in their hands and helping to not only support the individual, but the communities where they live, work, and thrive, right? I think that's awesome. And so that, to me, it's like you can tell in the work that you're doing, even though you claim to not know much. Not as much as the folks that you employ and work alongside of, but that ability to pull together a high-performing team is evidence that you know maybe a lot about a lot of different things, but at the core of who you are and what you do is empathy. And I think empathy is what's missing from a lot of organizations these days, from a lot of companies these days, and there's a lot of training that's going into that. And we know that with the Starbucks issue here in the city of Philadelphia. We won't get into that, but, I want you to talk to our audience about what your personal mission is 5 years from now. Like how do you define success? And what are some aspirational goals you have for yourself?
Yeah, I would say for me, when I think about what we're building right now, our Roar, I think about, I hope that one day it's not needed. I want to help. I want to make a difference. I wanted to be able to empower people, help them reclaim their power if needed.
Yes.
And at the same time, I want to live in a society one day where people will feel vulnerable, don't need to feel vulnerable, and don't need a safety or self-defense tool as a result.
Yes.
Now, I'm not naive because I know that that's a very long ways off. So in the next 5 years, every email that we get from folks that says that this has helped them in some way, I hope that not only do we continue doing that, but as a result of the empathy education that we're doing with these nonprofits,
yes,
that we see a change in the need for safety devices in the first place. Now, I do think it's more than 5 years. I want there to be more change. And this is one of those things that's going to take a long, long, long way, very long steps to do. But I feel, especially today, in today's world,
yes,
that we need to connect more with other people. And I'm really proud of Roar being part of the process to facilitate more of that education in terms of teaching empathy to others. And hopefully that will translate in different ways in the communities that we're serving.
Incredible. Incredible. Today, my guest was Yasmine Mustafa. She is a social entrepreneur and is fueled by passion to leverage technology for good. She's also the co-founder and CEO of award-winning Roar for Good, a certified B Corp. Yasmine embodies Roar's mission to make the world a safer place using smart safety, wearable technology, and community investments in empathy education. Prior to Roar, Yasmine introduced nonprofit Girl Develop It to Philadelphia, offering affordable opportunities to women interested in learning software development. She currently sits on the board of Coded by Kids, a nonprofit committed to providing free tech education to youth in underserved communities. Yasmine, for those who are interested in connecting with Roar for Good and staying in touch with you and following your journey, how can they get in touch with you?
They can go to roarforgood.com, roarforgood.com.
Awesome. For more information about Zigzag and the Grit Live, visit theenterprisecenter.com and find us under the For Entrepreneurs tab. My name is Tiffany Spraggins Payne, and I'm signing off.
Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Martin, the production consultant for The Grit Live. If you enjoy our programming, the most important thing you can do to support us is share each episode with your friends and family. You can also leave us a rating and a review on the podcast player of your choice to help others find us. Thank you for listening.